Where does 80 fall? And if you've had psych classes, you can answer this question better than those who haven't, maybe. Potentially. Actually, let me ask a question of those who've had psych classes. When you guys took your psych classes, you guys, and social classes, you guys were the ones that knew the 68, 95, 99 percentages really quickly. Do you know how they relate to IQ scores? Like 68% score between a what and a what? 95% score, but you didn't get that far into it. Totally fine, totally fine, it's okay. You'd have to know what -1 would correlate to as an IQ score. Remember how I told you have to know two things, an average and a standard deviation? In a standard normal, it starts with this. But then we can branch out from that standard normal. And as it turns out, for IQ, the average is 100. And I don't know why, but the standard deviation is 15. I don't know why. That's what I've always been told it is. That's what every researcher tells me it is. I don't exactly know what it's measuring anyway. I mean, ask 5 people what intelligence is and get 5 awesome answers. I don't know what the hell it is. I mean, flexibility is a really interesting vote I never thought of before. But what is intelligent? I think everybody agrees with a couple things. We can't define it, and whatever it is, dolphins have more than we do. Those are like the 2 recurring statements that I hear about intelligence. What it's measuring, I don't know. I do know that intelligence quests are biased. Intelligence tests are biased. I always score off the charts on them. Not because I'm intelligent, but because they're biased towards math people. If you're good at pattern recognition and doing mathematics and looking at grammar, I'm a Catholic school remnant, so my grammar is off the charts too. I can ace IQ tests because they're almost written for people like me. So is that fair? I don't think so. I don't think, Hattie?
In psych class, we actually talked about the biases of IQ tests towards people of Caucasian race.
Who invented them? I don't know.
Well, and additionally, they talk about African Americans specifically struggling on them because of the way that verbal skills are taught in oral tradition within African Americans. And that's the unintended consequence. Both of those things are unintended biases you wouldn't even think about. Because you're designing, it's just like being transplanted. I'm from Delaware originally. Coming to Bend for the first time and being like, oh boy. Like I lived 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia my entire life. And then I moved here. And it's one of those things, people that take stuff for granted here because they've always lived here, they've always seen Bend, they get dropped into Philadelphia. I never forget when I first moved here. All my class evaluations were like, dude, talk slower, talk slower, talk slower. Trust me, I talk like 80% slower than I used to talk when I got here. My boss, Charlie, at the time, he's my department chair, he's like, dude, you gotta work on this. I am working on this. I am working on this before I drank coffee. And then, Charlie, who spent his entire life in Oregon, went to New York City, spent a week in New York City. And he came back, he's like, I totally get you now. And it's that thing, it's that unintended bias. Dude, you're talking too fast. Relative to what? I'm actually talking slow relative to East Coaster. But that's a non-statistical example. The statistical example is if a Caucasian invents the test, they might be putting bias into the questioning methods they're not even thinking about. Let alone the cultures of the other cultures that they're underrepresenting. Very, very important. Hopefully, with properly designed studies, if you can keep it as numerical as possible and as little subjective as possible, you can alleviate some of that. We'll talk about that in 244 as well. The question I have is, how many people are walking around dull normal, i.e. idiot? How many people are walking around dull normal? You have to know what part of the curve to shade, right? I want to use the program. If we know what numbers to put into the program, we'll know how to get the probability out. But let's hold that for Tuesday, yes? Because I also want to talk about Mark Spitz and Michael Phelps, but I can't do it in 5 minutes really well. So right now, the big takeaway is we've got a beautiful tool that's going to let us deal with continuous data. But we're about 2/3 of the way through understanding how it actually applies to our world. That's Tuesday. And then hopefully we'll have time to roll some dice too. Have a good weekend, friends. I'll get your progress report as soon as I can. Appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I hope this goes well, whatever it is. Just what? Oh, just think about it.
He was the original Phelps back in the 70s. He was like the highest.
You're going to put it up? Yeah. Related to that, you ever heard of the quote, if you can't find the time to do it right, how do you ever find time to do it right? You ever heard that? That's a corollary to it. It's a corollary to what you just said. You know, it's corollary. Like, if you put any effort in, put as much effort in to get the job done correctly, then just do it half-assed. stuff for me a very, very long time. There's not enough time to do anything.